Everybody, happy June 3rd, 2020. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, we have a Sheehan football player, wide receiver, and cornerback. And he'll be going to Southern for track and field in the fall, hopefully when all the virus and stuff is pushed aside.
Yeah, great to be on. Thank you so much for having me.
I think first things first, just kind of go into your background a little bit. You told me prior on Twitter about what you've been through to get to Sheehan and the turbulation that it's been. Just tell me about it.
Yeah, so started playing football when I was like 6 or 7, and then my brother played football for Sheehan. He started his freshman year, and I've had some other family members come through. So you always, when you're younger, you look up to those high school guys, and you fantasize about when it's your turn to be on the field. And so when it was finally my turn to play some Sheehan football, I was ecstatic. It was a kind of a dream come true, and then I kind of had what I like to say, like the full Sheehan football experience, just because I got to kind of go through all the progressive stages. We had some guys that were uber talented that got to step on the field sophomore year and make a huge splash. But that's extraordinary. That's not necessarily normal. And I was one of the guys that I played freshman. I had a little bit of the JV grind, and I was playing on scout team. Trying to get the starters better and all that. And then eventually, when it was my turn to step on the field and kind of blossom from a role player to a starter to kind of a playmaker by the end of senior year, it was just a very holistic experience, and definitely a step-by-step thing. And players like me really chalk it up all to the coaching staff, because I came in not necessarily one of those really talented guys, and as a direct result of the coaches and the techniques they instilled and just everything that the coaches put in, they really help mold you and get you prepared. And guys like myself on our football team really will all credit to the coaches.
I kind of accredit it to college sports, or even as far as college to pro, because you look at not every player is a blue chip prospect. Not every player is a blue chip recruit. There's guys that kind of just peak later. They go through maybe the right program, they're a walk-on, and then look, they end up becoming a high-round pick. I mean, those are stories that you and I and everyone else love to hear. And I think your story is the same way. You went from a scout team player, you went against the best each and every week, each and every practice. It got you better, and then by your senior year, you were able to finally, look at me. Here's all the hard work I've done.
Yeah. And that's kind of a testament just to the culture, just to the program, because I think you could tell a lot about a program by how they handle the quote-unquote other guys, because everyone is going to have their stars from year to year. You're going to have your star power, but it's really about, those other guys in addition to them, what you can do with them, how you can coach them up, because I'll tell you right now, there's a few of us that, including myself, didn't necessarily expect to be key role players on a state championship football team. And if you asked anybody from the outside looking in, they probably would have said 4 years ago, we don't know if there's enough there, but just because of the coaches and raising everybody up, I think we were able to pull through.
And you talk about that state championship team. I mean, it was one of the most dynamic, I think, teams that I have seen in probably all my years of broadcasting. And I didn't even get to broadcast one of your games. And I was very sad I could not do. I wanted to do that game against Ansonia, but stuff just didn't happen. But the reason why I bring that up is because you guys were so high powering. The offense was just uber. Just tell me about kind of going into practice every day after putting up 50 or 60 points, and you're like, look at all this talent.
Yeah, well, it's kind of a well-oiled machine at that point, and it's more, our coaches do a great job in the offseason of developing an offense to the talent that they have there. You walk a lot of programs, and they make people try to fit, but our coaches are so dynamic in the way they cater things to the personnel that they have on a year in, year out basis. So, coming into the season, we had an offense brainstormed with, Coach Frazzi, Coach Miller, Coach Garrity, everybody just tailoring it to what we could do. And then throughout every single practice, we just work on what we need to do to get better. There's always things that you can execute better than you did before. So even in those games where we put up 50, 60 points, there's still things that we missed out on. There's still some blocks that we need to make. There's still some routes we need to run better. There's still some balls that got dropped that need to be caught. And it's just the things like that. It's kind of being a perfectionist, and we really get that from the coaching staff, and it's just contagious at that point, being so detail oriented, and then it comes down to the players so that every single practice, it's very intense and it's very efficient, and we really want to get everything out of it that we can. And I kind of chalk that practice environment up to why we can handle the high pressure situations pretty well, why we can stay calm, cool, collective, just because I think pressure is pretty subjective. I think we all put a lot of pressure on ourselves to succeed every time we're on the field, whether it's the state championship game in the fourth quarter, or if it's just a regular practice. Because if every situation is a high pressure situation to try to get as out of yourself as you can, what is pressure at that point from a game?
Yeah,
I
no,
think
that's a good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. I mean, if you look at pressure in, a light that you have, like you said, what is pressure?
Exactly. And that's why we were able to stay so cool. And that's, Coach Ferrazzi, what he had said to us, it's, weather the early storm, and then when you get the momentum, ride it. And I think, looking around in that first quarter, they, especially the first two drives when they went up 14-0, there was no panic. And at the end of the day, I remember saying to some of the DBs, it's like they scored the first touchdown on the first drive. It's like, all right, we weren't going to win with 0 points anyways, or first, it didn't really matter. And then you just take it as it comes, and you got to stay calm, you got to stay cool, and you got to prevail.
Sheehan is the only program where I've interviewed at least three of their head coach or three coaches. One of them now being at Norwalk, but the point I'm trying to make is I've really had an opportunity to kind of ask questions about the state championship team, the offense, the team itself, and it seems every person I've talked to, except for Coach Ferrazzi, is saying that it all starts with him. And the reason why I bring that up, and the question I have for you is, what did the program and also what did Coach Ferrazzi mean to you? Because I know you're very passionate about both.
Yeah. So, I mean, the program really starts with him, and it trickles down through everybody. The rest of the coaching staff, the players. I know as a team, we'll run through a brick wall for our coaching staff because we know that they'll do it for us too. You see how much they put in, the late nights in the coach's office. You drive by the school at 10 o'clock and you see Coach Ferrazzi still there with the other coaches. And even in the off season, it's not really an off season for them. They're still dedicating so much time. They're sacrificing so much for us that we know that, we'll have their backs too. And Coach Ferrazzi in particular, I can attest to, coming in, I said I wasn't that talented of a guy. I could hold my own, but I definitely wasn't the same caliber as a lot of guys in my class, at least, on our team. And so, that comes with the confidence struggles, especially being, freshman to JV and then kind of getting thrown into the fire in varsity. I'll always remember I didn't necessarily look at myself as a guy that could start for a state championship team or let alone be a key player, So my sophomore year, I remember knowing I was going to be a JV guy. He had kind of in the weight room when he walked up to me. I had just ran my 40-yard dash earlier that day, like we were doing testing, and he just kind of looked at me and he's like, you know what, like I see you, you're putting in work, you're getting yourself in the mix there. And that was just huge to me because, like I said, I didn't see myself in the mix. And then for him to say that, to notice a player like that, to instill some confidence in me, I'll kind of always remember that. That kind of changed the tide and made me really think of myself as a varsity caliber guy.
I think I know that that's a great story to be able to tell. Even that back then, your sophomore year, that he kind of saw you as something that could be down the road, and I think that attributes to what a good coach is, being able to project the future, not just seeing the present.
And the coaching staff just did a tremendous job because, I mean, every player is different. And I was somebody that was kind of in my own head a lot. You know, a lot of the stuff that held me back was kind of between the ears.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll tell you that too. So I was always very coachable, and I always listened, but I don't think I was probably the easiest kid to coach just because of some of those confidence things, trying to get myself out of my own head. And they just did an amazing job with that, and I'm so appreciative of it because somebody like me, you know, a coach has the power to really turn you either way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they kind of turn you away from the sport, and you know, if they're too hard on you, and they had the perfect amount to push me, but not kind of drive me away. And I'm just very appreciative because I know it couldn't have been the easiest thing in the world to cater to every player on the team, but they did so very graciously, and I'm very proud to be the player I am because of them, and the person I am because of them.
It's one of those teams and one of those years that you guys will never forget when you're 40 and 50 and you have kids and grandkids and you go back to your reunion and you'd be like, hey, remember when back in 2019, well, beyond, the fact of the pandemic, but just like, oh, hey, we got our championship, the run was great, and who knows, maybe some of the guys that you played with may go play college football. Some of them may end up playing beyond college football. So it's one of those seasons that you'll never forget, but it's also not just the 1 year, but it's the 4 years because you have the senior to freshman class that you worked your what's off the entire offseason and during the regular and playoffs.
Yeah. For sure. And, we say it didn't start with us. A program is built brick by brick. And even our freshman year, when not a lot of us were contributors, we can chalk it up to that amazing senior class that displayed great leadership and really set the tone for us and showed us the standard of what it's like to be a Sheehan guy. And even before that, I'll say it didn't start with us or even our freshman year with that team. It started however many years ago the coaches decided to make a conscious effort to change the course of the program and to really build a winning culture. It could have been 5, 10 years. Coach Ferrazzi's been at this, I think, almost 20, a little bit over 15. I think it's 16th or 17th year.
Mm-hmm.
It started then, the conscious decision to be the best coach that they could be every single day. And then brick upon brick gets laid, and then we're able to kind of walk into a program that's perfectly catered to set us up for the best we could be, the utmost success.
Of how Sheehan was able to be so successful. It's a pleasure, and I wish you nothing but the best of luck at Southern with track and field. And, you're welcome to come back on anytime you want.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
That'll wrap things up in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe, and as always, enjoy the rest of your day, everybody.